Today we will be looking at the system from a payroll perspective. We will begin by running through the payroll process and then take a look at a couple different payroll reports that you might find helpful. Then we will look at the system from the employee self-service functionality associated with payroll. So let's get started by logging into the system as our payroll administrator. When we log in, we're going to see that there is a dashboard screen enabled, which is a great way to access certain areas of the system that the employee uses most frequently. A dashboard can be configured for each individual employee based on their role and the types of things that they need to access within the system. As you can see, we have a quick links area, which have been enabled to allow the user to navigate through various areas of the system using these hyperlinks that are being displayed, which are configurable based on the employee's role. These quick links are a convenient alternative to using the menu options listed up above to navigate through the system. We also have a window enabled which lists all company employees and will allow you to jump right into their employee record. And finally, we have a list of all of the open payrolls, which is what we're going to use to access our payroll. To do this, I'm going to simply click on the payroll quick links, and then we're going to open up our payroll prep process. The payroll prep process outlines the items that need to be completed in a checklist type of format. So the payroll admin would be able to address each one of these steps by clicking on the hyperlink, and then once it's been completed, it can be checked off, and the date and time and who completed this step would be stamped for each one of these steps. The first step is to go to the Initiate Payroll, which is going to create the pay statements for these employees. Importing the time will pull in all of the data collected from the timekeeping system and put it into a batch for you to work with. The next step is to review the batch. This is the batch a payroll admin would use to enter in their data. The batch is built in a report format, so if you look at this report, you're going to notice that there are different columns listed across the top of the report, and there is data being displayed below. Now, because this is built like a report, that means you can manipulate this report as needed. That being said, I can sort this report by using the arrows here at the top of each column, which will allow me to sort by ascending or descending value. I can also add columns into my report by clicking on the Tools drop-down and clicking on Select Columns. Now, all of the columns that are currently being displayed within my report are listed here on the right-hand side, and all of the available columns I can report off of are displayed here on the left-hand side. And we can use the search box here at the top to bring in any columns that we're looking for. So for example, you can bring in any of your earnings, deductions, or taxes into this report. Now once we've finished setting up our report, we can go ahead and save our report. You can save multiple versions or views of this report, so once you get it set up the way that you need to be, you will not need to reformat this report again. Also, any of the reports within our system can be exported out into one of our different export formats that we have available. Those will include CSV, Excel, PDF, HTML, XML, and text. So now you're going to notice that I'm able to move around this grid using my keyboard, not my mouse. So all of my Excel hotkeys and shortcuts can be used here. In addition, when I rest on a cell, you'll notice the yellow window that appears. This will tell me what row and column I'm on so that I know exactly where I am within the grid at all times. And this comes in especially handy if you have many different columns across the top, or you're working with a large number of employees so that you don't get lost as you're moving through the grid. Now let's talk about how we can go about editing our batch. We have a concept of payroll alerts, which can be set up on a global or individual basis using effective dating. These alerts can even require a sign-off to ensure that nothing gets overlooked during the payroll process. A global alert might be set up to flag when an employee is being paid over a certain dollar amount, while an individual alert would be set up to remind a user of something that needs to be done on that particular payroll. From the batch, you can identify that there is a payroll alert here on the left-hand side of the screen when you can see the notepad icon. To view the alert, we'll simply click on the icon. And in this case, it was an individual alert that has been set up to remind the user to enter in a bonus for Paul. You'll notice that it does require sign-off. Without signing off on this alert, that means we will not be able to submit our payroll for finalization. So that being said, let's go ahead and sign off on this alert now, and then we'll enter in that bonus within the batch. To enter in the bonus, we're going to simply add in the $500 here under the bonus supplemental column. I'm going to go ahead and save and update my batch. And I do want to point out that we were able to keep the bonus on the same pay statement as the regular earnings, and the system is intuitive enough to know to tax the regular earnings at the regular tax rate, while it taxes the bonus at the supplemental rate, keeping everything on one check. Now, of course, if you wanted to, these could be separated into two separate checks by adding a new row right here, and then we would be able to select the appropriate pay statement type. As the batch is saved and updated, calculations are being applied in real time so we can review what the pay statements would look like for certain employees. We can also run our payroll reports, such as our payroll register, and other reports with no need for the traditional pre-process. If we wanted to take a look at Paul's pay statement, we can see this before the payroll has been processed. You will notice that the bonus that we just entered for Paul is now appearing here on the pay stub. So now we can go ahead and take a look at how the bonus will affect the taxes, or take a look at what their net pay will be. Under the Payroll Quick Links, we will be able to run some of the payroll reports as I had mentioned. First, let's take a look at the payroll register. Once again, the information that we're looking at here on the payroll register is pulling from the grid in its current payroll state. From this report, you have access to the employee's pay statement once again, and you will also have the ability to jump right into the employee's record to make any permanent changes to their payroll settings. If you needed to update a deduction or change a direct deposit, we could easily do that from here. When setting up a new direct deposit, you do have the ability to verify the routing number. This will search the database to determine if the routing number is valid and will provide the checks and balances for you immediately. Once those changes have been saved, then you can hit the previous screen button and it will take you back to your payroll register. The next report that I want to take a look at today is our General Ledger Summary. As I had shared earlier, we do have the ability to format this report by bringing in additional columns based on the accounting software that you are using. We also do have several different export formats, including Excel or QuickBooks. And the last report that I'd like to show you today is the Payroll Recap and Funding Report. Here we can see the payroll overview, which will include the number of paid employees, the employee payment information, which will include the total check amount and the total direct deposit amount as well. We can also take a look at the tax liabilities, any vendor liabilities such as any garnishments, what your total responsibility will be, what your total cash requirements are. We also have a general ledger summary and a couple of visuals such as the comparison from this pay period to last pay period and the rolling 12-month payroll view. So now let's go back to our payroll prep checklist. And we've already taken a look at our batch, so the next item here on our checklist is the option to edit the pay statements. So this will actually bring up a list of all of the company employees and will allow you to make edits to their individual pay statements. So from here you have the ability to do any tax overrides or add any manual checks as well. So we're going to go ahead back out to our checklist. And the next step on here is to sign off on any open payroll alerts. And remember, we need to make sure that we have reviewed all of our payroll alerts before we will be able to close and submit our payroll. The next step is to close the payroll, and if there were any errors, they would be flagged here in this step. A common error might be an error with a tax code setup. Our system uses geospatial technology to determine what taxes should be applied. It will look at the employee's home address as well as the company's address to determine the appropriate taxes. It is intuitive enough to calculate down to the local taxes, as well as taking into account any reciprocity agreements between states in regards to taxes. If an employee moves into a new tax jurisdiction that hasn't been set up in the system, there will be a flag here that will alert you which tax code needs to be set up so that you can move forward with processing your payroll, and the system will know how to apply the appropriate taxes. After the payroll has been closed, then the payroll can be submitted for finalization and delivery. So now that we've completed the processing of our payroll, let's go ahead and take a look at the employee self-service functionality. I'm going to log in as an employee, and the first screen that we come to is his dashboard. Remember, each dashboard can be configured for each individual employee's needs. In this case, the dashboard is set up for his employee self-service functionality. An employee can have access to a number of different items within their employee self-service portal. For example, they have the ability to complete their electronic withholding forms, as well as being able to view historical pay statements and W-2s. So first, let's take a look at an example of how the employee would be able to make changes to their withholdings. Using the quick links, we can access our withholding form. You can see that he has submitted his withholding forms already, but let's take a look at what it would look like if he wanted to add a new one. You'll notice that he has the choice of which federal or state forms to choose from, and the state forms are automatically made available by looking at the employee's address and the company's address. Now let's go ahead and take a look at a completed federal form, as this is going to be the same universal form for everybody. This works the same way as the paper form. His personal information has already been populated onto this form, as this is pulling directly from his employee record. So he'll simply need to complete the rest of this worksheet, and then once he's ready to submit it, he'll need to provide his electronic signature. The information that's collected on this electronic form will automatically update within the payroll system upon approval, which will eliminate the manual process. And this form will now be saved against the employee for future reference. Now let's move on and take a look at how the employee would be able to access their pay statements and their W-2s. So again, using the quick links, we can access our pay statements. And this screen works very much like a report, where the employee would be able to use the filters here at the top of the report to filter for a specific time frame or a date range to display on the screen using the Paid Dates filter here up at the top. Now, all of the historical pay statements can be viewed from here, and if the employee wanted to see a copy of the pay statement, he would simply click on the Preview Pay Statement icon. And here we will be able to see the pay statement along with a stub which will display his earnings, his taxes withheld, the company paid benefits, his accrual balances, and you can also make available global and/or individual messages to the employee. Also, he will have the ability to download a PDF version of this pay statement, where he would then have the option of printing or saving. The W-2s work in a very similar way as the pay statements. Again, they're shown in a report format, and if Josh wanted to take a look at the actual W-2 issued, he can go ahead and click on the Preview button here. And then we're going to see the W-2 format that we're familiar with. He also does have the ability, once again, to download this as a PDF and print it out or save it for his records. And the final thing that I want to look at today is how the employee can view their benefit statement or their total compensation statement. You have the ability to view historical benefit statements from here, or you can view the current statement, which is updated with the year-to-date information.